Hello there. Good morning. Tuesday, December 27th today. How you doing? Wanted to do a brief little video for you before the end of the year. This is a book that Kiki picked up from the library. She read a bit of it, but now we got to take it back. It's past the due date. I don't think she finished it, but I said, let me take a look at that and see if I can read it. So it's just a short read. It's under 100 pages. 95 pages. So it was just a 2-day read, and so I read it. And what it is a history. It's called Sauerkraut Enterprise by Edna Staebler. She lived almost 100 years old, and she passed on now, but she was a writer, and this book was published in the 1960s. It's an expose. It's not a fiction. It's a account of her experience with the Mennonite families in this area, in the area of Kitchener and Waterloo. And somebody's having a conversation there. Anyhow, so Edna did this history of the Mennonites, and I wanted to just share a little briefly with you that the history of them, where they came from, and you can see some pictures that's included. I don't know if you can see this picture in here or not. It's kind of funny to see. It's also illustrated. You know, that's the Mennonites. They have how they look. So some illustrations in there. William Penn. I don't know if you know who William Penn is. He is was a guy. That's where we get the name Pennsylvania, right? Pennsylvania. He invited them. They were being persecuted. In 1538, Menno Simons, a former Roman Catholic priest, right? He converted from Catholicism to Protestantism, and so they formed a group in Switzerland, a group of ex-monks and scholars. They wanted a religious order that was free from the Catholic Church, and they had some different beliefs, but they ended up getting persecuted fiercely over in Europe in the 1500s. And so what happened was they were traveled and persecuted for a couple hundred years. And in 1683, they were invited by William Penn, that's where we get the name Pennsylvania from, William Penn. William Penn was a Quaker. And I don't know if you know any history about the Quakers, but anyway, their faith was similar to the Mennonite faith. Mennonite comes from the name Menno Simons from 1538. And so in 1683, this is, 150 years after Menno, they were invited by William Penn to come to America, to come to Pennsylvania, right? And at that time, they were promised by the British to have the right to worship as they pleased, and also they promised them that they wouldn't have to serve in the military, because that was one of their policies. They weren't willing to serve in the military. And so they came over to Pennsylvania. They were originally spoke Dutch. They came from the area of Europe where they spoke Dutch. And then from Pennsylvania, they came to Waterloo County around 1800. They can trace some of the earliest ones of them from 1806, where they asked the Queen, depending on which groups that came up. There's Old Order, and there's slightly different groups amongst them. and some of them asked the queen, some of them asked the king, depending on the time frame, 1600 to 1608, to give them land in Waterloo County. So they got promised the land. They came up here and settled it when King Street was apparently just a path at the time. And they came and they started to build homes and cleared the land and built churches and community centers and taverns and so on and so forth. So just fascinating little book about the history of the Mennonites. It's mostly about their daily life and a lot about the Kitchener market and about the food that they eat, the different dishes. So Edna Staebler, her most popular book was a book called Food That Really Schmecks. And that's the term they use for taste good, is the word schmeck. And when they say something, it really schmecks, that means it really tastes good. So that was her most popular book. But this is a little book that she did called Sauerkraut Enterprise. And it's really a cute little read about the history of the Mennonites in this area, of the area of Kitchener, Waterloo, Galt, Cambridge, areas further north, Milverton, St. Jacobs, all those little areas around this region that I'm very close to as I read this to you here today. So I wanted to share that with you. Cute little book. And we're going to take that back to the library probably today. I don't know if I'm going to be getting any more because I find just taking the back and forth a little bit tedious unless there's a specific title I'm looking for. There was one I was looking for specifically, but they didn't have it at this branch. But I got the other one that I enjoyed immensely, those two short stories by Joseph Conrad. I got those out of the way. And so this one is done. And I'm going to make maybe one more video about a few passages that I read in the Bhagavad Gita that I want to share with you. So I'll make that in a separate video right after this one. And that's all I wanted to share with you for today. I want to give a special shout out to my friend Abby from Japan. And I was listening to a song this morning called, what's the name of the song? It's called, it's very upbeat, high energy. It's 5 years old. And it's called Love You More. And I got that song I was listening to DJ Miyuki, and she uses it in a trance mix. This is not my style of music. It's a more recent generation. But this particular song is 5 years old, so I'm going to put a link to that song that got me motivated this morning when I was waking up. I always like to listen to music when I first wake up in the morning to give me a bit of a boost. And sometimes I find some music that's a little more high energy, so I'll leave a link to that song for you to enjoy as well. You may like that style of music, I don't know. But I'm also been listening to slower paced music, instrumental music, and also one that is supposed to have the correct wavelength to encourage the opening of your inner eye. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say. Anyway, that's all for today. A little short video. Thank you for watching. I love you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're happy. We're coming up to the end of 2022, so time to make some plans for the new year, that it'll be a great year coming up and a blessed year for everybody. So take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you again really soon. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.